Welcome to the Parenting in the Digital Age podcast. Many parents are concerned that their child might be falling behind. Others are just looking for ways to help their children thrive, not just in the classroom, but socially, and well into their future careers. Each episode, we explore the challenges facing parents in the modern world, from behavior, education, and nutrition to device and gaming addiction. We interview a range of leaders in the area of childhood development to help you successfully navigate parenting in the digital age. Here is your host, Jamie Buttigieg.
Hello parents, welcome to another episode of the Parenting in the Digital Age podcast. Today we have a very special guest on the show, a local, I like to say. Peter Anthony is a consultant and author with over 40 years of experience in influencing customers, stakeholders, and donors. He's an expert in helping businesses win pitches and has worked with clients all over the world from Australia, the Middle East, China, and the US. Peter is also very passionate about working with non-profit organizations such as the Fred Hollows Foundation, International Justice Mission, and UNICEF. Peter has distilled his expertise into a storytelling pitch method, which he's taught to others and has written about in his recent book called Collabradabra, if I've got that right, The Magic of Collaborative Conversations. He has a master's degree in communication from the Sydney University, and his work has been recognised for its effectiveness and impact. Now, today, Peter is here to share his insights on a topic that I know is of interest to many parents and listeners, and that is helping children overcome self-esteem challenges. But before we get into that, Peter, welcome to the show. Please share with our listeners in your own words a bit about yourself and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, g'day, Jamie. As you said, I'm a passionate business person, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm also a passionate parent. And the reason I'm here is that about 4 years ago, I was a recently divorced dad. And I got a call one night. I was going for a walk, one of my favorite walks between Manly Beach and Shelley Beach in Sydney. I got a call from my daughter. And she said, "Dad, can I come and live with you?" And I said, "Why, what's up?" And she said, "Can I come and live with you?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely. Of course, I'm not going to say no." She landed on my doorstep the next morning in a hole, to put it mildly. She was having she had a toxic relationship with a boy. She was smoking a packet of Marlboros a day. She'd stopped going to school. She was mixing with a group of kids that, let's say, weren't really supporting her lifestyle. She had all of the issues a lot of young women were facing then, body dysmorphia, a whole range of things. And that started a huge, steep learning curve for me about how to parent a daughter in particular that was in a hole like that. So that's why I'm here, sir.
A very important topic, and I myself, as a father of a teenage daughter, and am very keen to hear your insight and your experience. So thank you for joining us today. And you kind of touched on this already, mate, but what are some of the common self-esteem challenges faced by children? And maybe we can look at some of the causes and give parents some insight.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges, and one of the reasons that I reached out to you is parenting in the digital age. One of the challenges is the digital age these kids are growing up in, which is overwhelmingly positive. I'm not like a Luddite that wants to smash all social media, but there are some quite insidious consequences. The most recent Apple research I saw suggested that about 80% of mobile phone usage now is on short form video like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Kids are spending less time than ever using phones to make calls or have conversations. In fact, it's been falling every year since 2006. So the kids are having less conversations. They're spending more time consuming social media. And part of the problem that sets up is that they are constantly comparing themselves to a heavily curated world. And if you think you're on that, they're on the device upwards of 9 or 10 hours a day, it's rarely away from their hand. And what they're getting is constant, heavily curated lifestyles, images of how they should be, where they should go, what they should look like. And it's very, I think it's particularly insidious for the young women, because it's that they're comparing themselves more to these idealized environments. And what's a bit more insidious is that when they do feel anxiety, like my daughter was feeling, those short-term videos give you like a dopamine hit, a very short-term hit, which sort of makes you feel good instantly, but it's almost like a sugar pill. You get the sugar, get a hit, and then you fall back, get a sugar, get a hit, and fall back again. And I originally, Jamie, thought the answer was a lot of love. I thought, yeah, if I just show her how much I love her, that will work. I also thought, as an old school business person and a Tony Robbins devotee, I mean, I've been to Unleash the Power Within twice. I've walked on fire twice. I've been to Your Date with Destiny. I used to have the Tony Robbins CDs stacked in my car, playing constantly in the background. And he's all about, taking massive action, never leave the scene of a decision without taking action. And it's the opposite of what works. So I tried initially the opposite: take massive action, show how much I loved her, but neither of those things worked. In fact, they were causing more damage than good. That was where it started.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate you sharing your personal journey, because it can be sometimes tough. How about bullying? Like another, I guess, cause of low self-esteem and or anxiety, particularly in the digital age. Like you've talked about this comparison to others, and in the digital age, they're comparing with every single thumb scroll. My daughter had a few issues with bullying, and if you go back to when you and I were at school, we'd get bullied in the schoolyard, and maybe it was between periods. You'd pass the bully and you'd see them twice a day, then you'd go home and you wouldn't see them again. Now that bully is ever present. With that phone and that device, that bully is never more than one scroll away from my daughter, as it happened in that case. But that's certainly another, I would think, a major cause of that anxiety and self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. And what happened in Belle's case was that she was mixing with a fairly tough crowd, and what she decided to do was rather than retreat, she became one of them. She became part of the tough crowd. Hence the Marlboros, hence the not going to school, hanging out with the tough kids, thinking if she hung out with the tough kids, that was going to help. I wouldn't actually call her a bully, but she was hanging out with some bullies, if you like, or some pretty tough kids, which made it more challenging for her, because there was no one in her peer group that she could really reach out to, because the whole idea was be tough, be strong, and like push everything down, like get a feeling, push it down, if you like. So bullying was very much part of the context. I think it's also trickier for young women too, because I think as guys, we basically just become bigger versions of boys. We're just like bigger boys, right? For girls, it's a lot more complicated, a lot trickier as their bodies are growing and developing. It's a lot more challenging for them, and if they don't look like this ideal image that they think they need to look like, that can also add an extra layer of challenge. So you can imagine all those challenges rolled into one. And rolled into one broken kid. I mean, she was 16 then, but she was still a kid, particularly emotionally. And her relationship with her mother had broken down because of the way her mother was mothering her wasn't working. She loved her, but that particular approach wasn't working. And I was her last resort. And she even said to me, she said, "Dad, I'm not here because I love you. I want to be here. This is the last resort." I think, oh, great. Thanks for the vote of confidence. So that was where it all started. So you can imagine, it was like I'm an ex-footballer. I play a lot of footy. It's like we used to call them hospital passes. Like one of those fellow players would pass you the ball just before you get hammered by 4 or 5 big forwards. That was was like a hospital pass. Think, okay, I've inherited this. I've got this. I love her. She's a complete mess. And I've got no idea what to do. And everything I'm trying is not working. And I'm sure there's parents listening that can probably relate to that. They think, what am I going to do? Like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, and it's not just the pressure to fit in. It's a human need. This need for inclusion, this need for social status, to fit into a group. Do you think she knew? I'm not asking you to speak on her behalf, but do you think she knew she was in the wrong group and was kind of felt a bit stuck, or she was literally trying at all costs to be part of this group? And then maybe how did you deal with that? Like, how did you maybe pull her out of that, or could you pull her out of that? Just talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, we did talk about that very early on. We talked about because I met her friends pretty quickly because they were over quite regularly, and I believe quite strongly that you become who you hang around, and I knew that wasn't the right environment, and I think she did too. But if she left them, she'd have literally nobody. So what we decided to do, or what we arrived at very early on, was to, rather than taking massive action, as Tony Robbins would recommend, is look for the tiniest possible steps we could take. And changing the friendship group wasn't a tiny step, it was a big step. That came a little later. What we worked on was tiny steps like eating, tiny steps like getting up in the morning, tiny steps like seeing daylight, tiny steps like that, and looking at helping her to feel better about how she was feeling by building on those tiny steps. And rather than me telling her how much I loved her, which is almost an ego trip from my perspective, was to help her care for herself and love herself. And it was really interesting because at that stage we were just living, it was just her and I living together. And I said to her one night, I said, look, we had a meal, we're cleaning up in the kitchen. And I said, Beryl, look, not about being a princess, not about thinking that you're shit or that you're nothing. It really is just about being enough, right? Just smart enough, beautiful enough, strong enough to take all these little steps. And as these little steps build up, as you can see, you're starting to feel better. And that became like our catch cry, became like our joke, if you like, not like you're enough spelt properly. It was like you're enough and N-U-F-F, like I'm enough. And it became a bit of a joke between us, right? And that sort of like sparked something off in her, because she thought, yeah, I'm enough to get up. I'm enough to go to school. I'm enough to eat properly. I'm enough to get sleep. And that was like I guess the fuel, if you like, that she needed to get going. At this stage, she was beginning year 11 at school. And she said, Dad, I've got this HSC project coming up, because she missed a year of school. She actually ended up repeating year 11 because she'd missed almost all the year that she was in. And she said, I've got a HSC project coming up. Do you think I could do this enough thing? And I said, yeah. I thought initially, I'm thinking that's not a great idea, but why not? Why not support it? It's her idea. And she said, what I'm going to do is, there's too many girls I know, too many kids I know that don't think they're enough. They either think they're too much and they've got ego problems, or they're not enough and they've got really low self-esteem. So she said, I'm going to do this as a HSC project, and I'm going to start this little business. It's going to be called Nuff, and I want you to buy some T-shirts with Nuff written on them, and we're going to sell them, right, to get the message out. And I'm thinking, who in the hell would buy a T-shirt with Nuff written on it, right? That's my business brain kicking in, right? Spent all these years consulting and traveling and doing this stuff, thinking that is such. But I said, no, great idea, and then she said, and we need 5 sizes and 3 colors. I'm thinking money. I'm thinking like, how much is this going to cost? Like, how much is this agreement going to cost me? Anyway, so we ended up I agreed. We bought these, three different colored T-shirts in 5 different sizes. And she said, Dad, we're going to make a website. We're going to post it. We're going to sell them. I think, okay, great. But maybe this is how Elon Musk's mum thought about him when he was little, or Greta Thunberg's mum or dad. Sure enough, we did that. I posted it on Facebook, thinking no one's going to buy these. I've got a garage full of T-shirts with Nuff written on it, right? Think no one's going to buy this. And sure enough, on my Facebook, there's going ding, 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 ding. And we sold them all like in one afternoon, right?
Yeah, no way.
All on the northern beaches of Sydney, right? Like all around the suburbs where we lived. Like I live in Manly, so it was Narrabeen, it was Dee Why, it was Palm Beach, it was Avalon, it was all the northern beaches around where we lived. And it wasn't girls buying them, it was mums. Mums buying them for themselves and also for their daughters and their kids. And then she said, "Oh, Dad, what we're going to do now, we're going to deliver them all. And I want to write a personalized note on every one we sold." I think, oh, great. So we sat there, she sat down, wrote a personal note to everyone that bought a shirt. She wrapped them all in tissue paper and put little like love heart stickers on all the tissue paper. We wrapped them all up like in plastic because it was raining a fair bit at that stage. And then I put the sat nav on and we just drove around for weekend after weekend, just delivering all these shirts, right? But the bizarre thing was that that was like part of her journey. Part of her journey was to like get inspired and get connected. And she built like what I call a mum's mafia. The mums picked up the idea as a way of making them feel more comfortable with themselves, and also their daughters and their kids. And she started this. It's almost like a movement.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the second piece, I think, because what I learned about the second thing I learned about self-esteem was that when you've got low self-esteem or high anxiety, it's likely to mean you're disconnected with yourself. So it's really about getting reconnected, not with social media influencers or whoever's on TikTok or wherever you're watching, or the Vampire Diaries or whatever you happen to be watching. It's about saying, okay, getting more connected with yourself and think, okay, who am I and what am I here to do? And who I am is really cool, whatever that is. And what am I here to do? What passion do I want to follow? Like, and how can I bring that into the world? And through her doing that, that was bringing more of her into the world, if you like. And I noticed that as that was expanding, she was getting stronger too, because she was realizing more about who she was and what she wanted to do with her life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So you talk about connecting with yourself. Was there an exercise or a tip that you would share with parents, or this kind of happened organically where she figured it out? Like, with support, like was there a moment, or was it a journey? How as a father who's potentially going through something similar, how would I help my 16-year-old daughter connect with herself?
I think the best way to do it, or what I would recommend, and this is also what Batir recommends, it's a charity we've been working with that runs workshops for young women with self-esteem issues at school. As a parent, I guess there's two answers. One is as the parent, one is as the kid. As a parent, what I would strongly recommend is to keep the conversation flowing. It doesn't matter what it's about. It doesn't matter whether it's about basketball, football, netball, whatever it is. Just keep that conversation going, and it's a conversation where you're doing more listening than telling. And just be really inquisitive about what she's doing. Not so much what you're doing and why you're doing it, but more a matter of what are her dreams? What is she thinking about? Who or what really inspires her? Because as young adults are growing, their personality traits are being reinforced. And part of it's DNA. Part of it is upbringing and who they're with and what they're thinking. But really inspire her or him, if you've got a son, to dream, to think about, okay, who am I and what do I want to do? and maybe that I'm a fireman, engineer, whatever, not occupation wise, not in that sense. Like you're going to go to uni and do with this, that. No, not that. Just what really excites you, what really interests you, and keep that conversation alive. I definitely recommend that. I would definitely recommend taking tiny steps, and also recognize that this is pretty normal. Something like 70% of young kids have got issues with self-esteem. It's a remarkably common thing, and that's higher in young women. So almost expect it to happen at some stage. And if it's not happening, maybe it is, and you're not aware of it, and that's when it can get really concerning. So that's what I'd say. It's primarily a disconnection with self. Focus on the tiniest possible steps you can think of, and keep that conversation going, and keep her thinking, or keep him thinking he's enough, just enough. Like, not like you're more than enough or less than enough, and all you need is enough. I mean, if you want to win a 100 meters race at the Olympics, all you need to do is be fast enough to beat the person behind you. That's all you haven't got to break world records. All you got to do is just be fast enough. Just enough. I mean, we talked about golf earlier. I think the ball's just got to roll into the hole. It hasn't got to be drilled into the hole. It's got to roll. It's going to be enough just to be on the fairway. Or if you're sailing, just enough wind. I mean, I do a lot of surfing and ocean swimming. It's just enough swell to catch. Hasn't got to be huge. Hasn't got to be tiny. Just enough. And I think that's a really important message. And if I can add a third one or a fourth one. What Batyr do is they teach kids to tell different stories, or to think about a different story about their life, and think of their life as a story. And you can start conversations with kids about favorite movies or Netflix shows, or whatever story is engaging them. I know with Belle, it was all about vampires at that stage, romance with vampires, which I thought, this is weird, but that's okay. That's okay. You think, well, what story are you listening to there? And just be really curious about the stories they're listening to, and the movies they're watching, Netflix shows they're watching, because all those stories have a couple of essential ingredients. They've got a central character that you like. You meet the central character and you really like them, and you realize what they want. I mean, one of the movies I loved recently was Tom Cruise in Maverick, the Top Gun movie, #2. You meet Tom Cruise again, you meet Maverick, you like him, you see what he wants and why he wants it. He wants to be relevant again. He wants to, participate in freedom, but there's a problem. He's getting a bit aged. He's got a few broken relationships, like with senior guys in the military. And the rest of the story is about him finding ways of getting what he wants despite what's getting in the way. And that's what all good stories have in common. And don't tell them that directly, but get them thinking about these stories, thinking about why they like those movies, why they like those shows, and what they're seeing in themselves is they're seeing themselves in that story. And remind them that this is how stories unfold. This is how your life's going to unfold. It's not going to be like a perfectly upward trajectory. You're going to want something. People are going to like you. You're going to want something, and then a whole lot of things are going to get in the way. And those things in the way are designed to help you find what you need to find in your own bones and your own soul to meet that particular challenge for you, not for me. That's your life, not my life.
Yeah.
And get her thinking like this. Just like start sowing those seeds. And oh, that's right. Yeah, when I'm watching this, I'm watching myself. When I'm watching that movie, I'm watching myself. When I watch Maverick, I'm watching me. Yeah. When they're watching their Vampire Diaries, they're watching themselves. Yeah. Does that make sense, or does that get a bit too deep?
No, it's not at all, because they're practical conversations that any parent can have.
Yeah,
they're just asking some curious questions. And that, coming back to your one earlier point about getting in touch with yourself, and that looking internally that's a great way to do that. So
Yeah.
I want to go back for a step, talking about school. So my daughter's at this stage where she doesn't want to go to school, and she's an extremely intelligent young girl, and that's not the dad speaking, like she's academically gifted.
Well, she's got her mum's genes, has she?
All dads are going to say that. But she is largely with a crowd that, doesn't want to go to school. They they're rebels and they're breaking, the mold, so to speak. So it's acceptable to this group, which she's trying to fit into, to not go to school. How any advice for a parent who would be dealing with something like that?
What, not going? Yeah. Well, what we did was Belle changed schools.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a quick decision or an easy decision, but she did change schools. I think before that, though, it's about helping her understand that the people that she's with don't love her. You'll often hear from young kids, and I talk to them all the time in this sort of environments I'm mixing with in this whole self-esteem piece. One of the big issues that these kids are facing is they don't love themselves, they're disconnected, and they're reaching out for the love of these so-called friends, and I put that in inverted commas, because they think those friends love them, right? But in fact, those friends are toxic to them. And it's not about telling them, hey, those friends are toxic. It's about making them more aware that what these friends are suggesting and recommending is really quite dangerous. I mean, we're involved in a situation, an example of danger. There's a dam close to it. Very few people know that in Manly there's a Manly Dam. There's an old dam that used to be the freshwater supply around where I live. And now it's used for swimming and water skiing and picnicking and stuff. And kids often go there at night. Her friends went there, her friends, in inverted commas, and her went there one particular night. And they were possibly doing some drugs, possibly not, possibly drinking some alcohol, possibly not. And she rang me. It was about 8 p.m. And I said, Belle, where are you? And she said, oh, I'm up at Manly Dam. I said, whereabouts? She said, there's no lights there because it's also like a wildlife sanctuary. It was dark. They were lost where they were. They couldn't see anything. There was about 7 or 8 young women there, young girls there, about 6. I was just, oh my God, this is like recipe for disaster. I drove up there. The gates were closed. I couldn't see in there. I said, look, I'm going to put my headlights on high beam. Just walk towards headlights. I was just hoping she was somewhere near where my car was. Fortunately, one of the girls saw the cars, my car, and they walked towards the car, and I got them out of there. So I'm thinking, obviously, the worst that could happen in an environment like that. But afterwards, after that settled and I got the kids back home, we just had a conversation about just how dangerous that was. Not that I was angry about it, but that her friends had encouraged her to do this and just how dangerous it was. And if you really loved somebody, would you be encouraging someone to be in that much danger? And that began her thinking about these friends, like the consequent, and did they really care and love about her? And that sort of put a bit of a crack in the armor of this friendship group. And then over time, that friendship group changed. She got some better friends in, if you like, and the older friends, not quickly. This would have taken several months for the older ones to disappear as the newer ones came in that were genuine friends and really cared about her and really loved her and wanted to be with her and look after her and care about her. And then she gets the experience of friends that actually care, which, as we know, is one of the awesome benefits in life, is having people that care about you around you. They actually give a shit about you. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Not these other so-called friends that they're like poison, but they need to almost experience that themselves rather than you tell them, oh, they're bad friends, you should change your friends. Well, that's just going to sound like a lot of, dictating. It's more a matter of saying, hey, do these guys really love you? Do people love you? Is that what they would do? Put you in that much danger? Because she was scared.
Yeah.
It really shook her up. And I'm glad she was scared, because it was a really dangerous environment for those kids.
Yeah, it definitely is, Peter. Now, I'm just mindful of our time together, and I know you've got a deadline, and this is such a diverse, important, and multifaceted conversation. So, and even so many paths we could go down today. But really, I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate your openness in sharing your story and Belle's story in particular. One question that we do like to finish on in a more lighthearted approach is let's
sounds
get
heavy, doesn't it? I'm sounding very doom and gloom, but there
no.
is a happy ending. There's a happy ending to all this. It was she did get it. I mean, she's now at uni. She's doing a law degree. She's in a long-term relationship with a really great partner that really does care about her. And she really has turned that corner around, and it's awesome as a parent to watch that happen. I can't, apart from watching your kids be born, that's pretty high on the list, but watching them deal with something like this and being part of that journey with them, it's priceless. I can't think of anything that is more important to me than watching her grow through this. So there's a happy ending. She came out at the other end.
Yeah, and you mentioned she's doing some work in the charity field or in that self-esteem area for girls still.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's got a little. I shouldn't say a little business. That sounds condescending. She started a business called You're Enough. It's YOURANUF. You're Enough. And what she does is she sells clothing like caps and T-shirts and sweatshirts and candles and a whole range of things. And the money that she makes after paying for the cost of getting the things made all goes to supporting more of these workshops and programs in schools. So she's not doing it directly. And her message is have conversations about self-esteem, have conversations with your kids about you being enough. And her idea, which has worked so far, is this enough idea. Just participate in that idea so that you can have that conversation. Like, remind them that they're enough. Like, hey, you're enough. Not more than enough, not less than enough, just enough, right? And spread the word and just keep those conversations flowing. No advice, no dictating, no you should this, you should be something else. Just you're enough. How are you feeling? Are you feeling enough today? Are you feeling enough to do the exam, to go here, to go there, to wear this, to whatever it is that they're facing, and they're facing a whole range of things. Just remember that you're enough. That's the message. And if people would like to support it, just check it out. It's just you'reenough.com. That's her business. And have a look and see whether you'd like to support her. And you'll see a good picture of her there too.
We'll put that in the show notes, that website, so listeners can discover that, because it is such a worthy movement. It's a powerful message, an important message, not just for young girls, but for young boys and all children who are growing up in this digital age that is infinitely more complex than it once was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So just to finish off on that lighter note that we all promised, one question we love to finish on is, if we said to you, Peter, to go back to your 10-year-old self and, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I'd say, with apologies to her, the girl that I was in love with when I was 10 won't be the first girl you love, because I was devastated when a girl I loved called Joanne, who lived 2 streets over, I'd walk her to and from school. She moved out of the suburb, and I was completely heartbroken, like devastated. Right. And I said to my mum, I said, oh, love of my life has just left, that I'm only 10, and I was devastated. I'd say to my 10-year-old self, it's okay, mate. You'll meet somebody else.
That's wise advice, Peter. Definitely wise advice. Now, go ahead.
No, you go. I just laugh at myself back then, how devastated I was. I was just completely heartbroken. If I had a heart when I was 10, completely heartbroken. I just loved walking her home from school and taking her to her house. It was just bizarre how much I cared about this girl.
Yeah, we have feelings at every age, Peter, even at 10. Where can our listeners find you online? So if they want to get in touch with you, or through Belle and her organisation, how can they connect? Well,
if you want to connect with me, I mean, you want some advice or want to share some ideas or give us some support, you can just find me. I'm peteranthonymail@gmail.com. Just send me a note, give me some advice, give me a suggestion. Happy to be involved in that conversation. I've got like a bit of a mum's mafia I work with, or you can check out Belle, contact her through her website, which is youreenough.com, and you'll get her contact details there. We'd love to hear from you. You got any ideas, experiences, suggestions? We'd love to have them. Like, we're not the experts in this. We're just like on the journey with you guys.
Yeah, you spread an important message, Peter. Peter, thanks for your generosity and your time.
Pleasure.
Bye for now. Hope we cross paths again soon.
Thanks, Jamie. Bye, mate. Bye.
Cheers, and bye for now.
If you enjoyed the show, please connect with Jamie on LinkedIn or Instagram. You'll find links in the podcast description. Parenting in the Digital Age is sponsored by Skill Samurai, Coding and STEM Academy for Kids. Skill Samurai offers after-school coding classes and holiday programs to help kids thrive academically and socially while preparing them for the careers of the future. Visit skillsamurai.com.au.